All right. Welcome everybody today. Good afternoon. Welcome to Deo Halage's Lunch and Learn. And today we have Feather Maracle, CEO and Director of Six Nations Public Library. And she will be speaking about some of the services the library provides. And I just wanted to read your bio real quick. Sorry, I just grabbed your bio off the site there. So Feather Maracle is Mohawk from Tainanega Mohawk territory with family ties to the Six Nations. She is also Odawa and Parawami from Makweimokang and Sita Indian Reserve. Feather is a mother and two kind, is it still two kind? Okay. Two kind, beautiful and gentle children, and she is the CEO and Director of Library Services for Six Nations Public Library, the largest and oldest Six Nations public library in the world. Feather is a strong advocate for promoting Indigenous voices, inclusion, as pertains to the library sector. She holds space and shares in the intersection of library and Indigenous matters. Feather sits on many boards, councils, and committees. She's the chair of the Ontario Library Association, Indigenous Advisory Council, board member of the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries, Yellow Team lead on both the Truth and Reconciliation Report and Recommendations Committee and Indigenous Matters Standing Committee, both of the Canadian Federation of Library Associations. She is a member of the First Nations Strategic Action Group and a juror of the First Nations Committee's RID. Most recently, Feather has been elected the International Federation of Library Associations, Indigenous Matters Committee. Ooh. Feather has been raised in her cultures, and with their distinct value systems, she continues to be guided through the path of her traditional knowledge systems. She has a genuine passion for people and community as Indigenous ways of knowing and the importance of in continued relevance in contemporary times. This way of being allows her to apply and transfer knowledge to librarianship and education. So, leave it to you, Feather. Take it away. Yawa.
Okay. Here we go.
And then,
Thank you. I'm just going to log into my computer. And here we go. Oh, geez, I've never seen this before. I hope everyone's well. I'm sorry for the lag, but here we go. Slideshow. Oh, right at the top. You started at the end. Okay, here we go. From the beginning, from the top, everyone. Okay, so that was just my title page. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Feather Maracle, and I am here to talk about the Six Nations Public Library. The mission of the Six Nations Public Library is to enrich lives and build community while ensuring multi-format access to resources for lifelong learning, research, culture, and historical archives. This statement is incredibly important to me because it is what guides my work. And I try to do as much as I can. You'll see. So from the library, this is our commitment to you. The Six Nations Public Library Board and staff are dedicated to providing the best public library service available to all patrons. We are committed to providing welcoming, responsive, courteous, and efficient service, a balance of children, youth, and adult material and resources, extensive Six Nations and general Indigenous research collections, archival documentation and preservation of records of our past, programming, technology, and services based on the community's needs and interests, continuously improving library services, and the best patron service available. These are extremely important points because this is what guides the library as well, and the work that we do and the services we offer. And everything that I speak to should relate back to our mission as well as our commitment to you. So I want to say thank you to everyone for sharing your time with me today and allowing me into your heart and minds to talk about the Six Nations Public Library. It is one of my favorite places ever. So my name is Feather Maracle. I am Mohawk through my dad from Tainanaga, and his dad's from Tainanaga, and my dad's mom is from Six Nations, so that's how I have those ties here. And then through my mom, we are from Manitoulin Island, from Wikwemikong, and her dad was Odawa, and her mom is, or was, Potawatomi. And so that's how I have Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe ties. I am the CEO and Director of Library Services for the Six Nations Public Library, a position I took over on a cool morning of April of 2018, and I've been there ever since, and I'm so happy to be there. I studied at Mohawk College in Library Technician Diploma Program, and also with Western, and I have to pick it back up, but I've been assessing the MLIS program, the Master of Library and Information Sciences program that Western offers from an Indigenous perspective. So I take it as a student, the coursework, and then once I'm done the course, I assess it to see, because it's, librarianship as a whole is pretty whitewashed. I'm not going to lie about that or try to make that sound better. It's a blunt statement, but sometimes the statements need to be blunt in order to be seen and understood and then acted on. So that's what I do. But I'm also actively involved in Indigenous matters and where they intersect with librarianship. So I'm trying to make things better for today and tomorrow and for the faceless ones to come. That is really who I work for. However, my role within the library, segue, is the CEO and Director of Library Services. I am the board treasurer and also the board secretary. And in addition to that, I sit on many professional bodies. And this is how I feel that my time is worthwhile, is being involved in these professional bodies to bring our voices, and so that our voices can be heard and recognized. So locally, the Lifelong Learning Task Group and the Six Nations Marketing and Tourism Committee, though oftentimes I have other library staff members attending those meetings they would be the best representative of the library at those meetings. So I represent us on a local, provincial, national, and international levels. So I sit on the advisory committee for the Accessible Library Resource Center project. We call that PLARC. Canadian Federation of Library Associations, that is Canada's representative association on an international level. I sit as a juror on First Nation Communities Read. This program is about 20 years old, where the books are nominated by publishers, so Indigenous voices. There's categories of adult, young adult, and then the children's literature categories. And these books are nominated by the publisher, and they are supplied to the librarians of First Nation public libraries, and we read and vet them. Sorry. I did want to mention that Alicia Elliott's book is the recipient of the Indigenous Literature Award for this year, and we have copies at the library that you are welcome to come and borrow. We are also reading that book right now for our Haudenosaunee Book Club. You can make that purchase of that book from Good Minds as well. If you're not local, they will put it in the mail for you. But you really should get that book. It's fantastic. Anyhow, congratulations to her, because she's also from Six Nations. Then I sit on the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries. That is was going to say to argue with the government, but it kind of is. With other things. The Joint Automated Server Initiative Steering Committee, so the Joint Automated, so JASI, that is what, it's pretty much the provincial ILS. It's a cataloging system that libraries use to track their material. When libraries are using the systems to track material, there is a prescribed language, because you know, when you used to go to the library, you look up books by either by author or title or subject. And now those subjects can be tricky because we're no longer Indians of North America. And so that's why to sit on that committee to influence the language used that represent us. And there's more work being done on that, and it's called the Respectful Terminology Platform Project, and that is looked after by the National Indigenous Knowledge and Language Alliance, or NICLA, of which I am a founding member, and I had sat as the NICLA secretary, and I currently hold the position of chair of the library community. I sit on the Ontario Library Association as a board member, as well as a co-chair of the OLA Indigenous Advisory Council, which is a group that I just sort of invented because they didn't have representation, they had no Indigenous representation at the board level, and I found that very problematic. So we changed that, and now we have representation. I also sit on the Ontario Public Library Guidelines Monitoring and Accreditation Council. That group looks after to make sure that there are standards that public libraries are meeting. And the Six Nations Public Library was the very first First Nation public library to become accredited. Here's the last one. I sit on the International Federation of Library Associations on the Indigenous Matters Committee. So this, on this committee I work with Indigenous librarians from all over the world. It's pretty fantastic. So I just wanted to include these words of wisdom from my good friend Camille Calliston of the Tahltan Nation. Historically and currently, libraries, archives, traditional knowledge, language repositories, and cultural memory institutions play a central role in the preservation of Indigenous knowledge by gathering in written, recorded, oral knowledge and languages, as well as digitized Indigenous knowledge, history, culture, and language. These cultural memory institutions have become a very important part of the reclamation and intergenerational transfer of Indigenous knowledge, culture, language, art, and history. An understanding of Indigenous peoples' sense of history or worldview, the importance and validity of a dynamic culture of oral traditions, and issues of decolonization and re-empowerment are extremely crucial in collecting and preserving Indigenous knowledge. Thank you, Camille, for those words. So it's important, I know I went through and I sit on a lot of committees and these professional bodies, but it's important that we're represented. If we will be forgotten about if we are not there to remind people that we still exist, that as Haudenosaunee and Ongway, we still exist. If Indigenous matters aren't represented, yikes. I don't want to think about that. I don't, because that's not the direction I'm going. I'm going so that our voices are strong and heard, and that we will continue to advise and to play a role in how our world is moving forward. And we have all of the information. We have it all because it was all given to us by the Creator, and it's all around us. Everywhere we look in nature, the information is there. We are the ones that have it, that understand it, and that we can bring it forward. And That's why it's very important to be represented. And also, I like to sit on these committees because it gives me a sense that we are not alone and that there are other voices representing Indigenous matters. And I just want to point out that it is very purposeful that I'm referring to Indigenous matters as opposed to Indigenous issues, because issues gives the sense that that there's a problem, right? But that's from the, I like to call it the WWE perspective, and we're not talking wrestling. The white Western European perspective would consider these issues because it doesn't make them important. But I say these are Indigenous matters because these matter to all of us equally. The Six Nations Public Library, we were established in 1966. We are located in downtown Oswego, and we are the building that sits in between the admin building and Veterans Park, and we are right across the street from Tim Hortons. So you can get your hot or cold beverage or your snack or sandwich, and you can come and check out our collection. We have about 40,000 items. I did want to mention that we have a collections management policy of Native and local collections. We are the first public library in Ontario to have a collections management policy that is specific to Native and local collections. So once this gets into policy, then it gets into the budget. So now then, remember I sit on the OPLG, the accreditation. Now all public libraries have to have a Native and local collections policy, and all of their policies are based off of the Six Nations. I get excited about that because that's really excellent, but that was my predecessor, Dr. Sabrina Saunders, who wrote the Native and local collections policy. I took it one step further to say that the OPLG has to make this a mandatory accreditation for all libraries, as well as the representation. So you know when you walk into a library and the spines have stickers on them? So at the bottom there's usually the call number, but then sometimes there's like romance or detective or... So in our library, in our community library, all of the Haudenosaunee voices, they have a purple covering over the call number. It's like a clear purple plastic that you can see. So you can immediately walk in and look around and know which one are our voices here. And then for the rest of our relations, I've represented those books with a feather. And not because of my name or that I want to be on all of the books, but very specifically because when I look around and I look at, so my background, I have an honors BA in sociocultural anthropology. So when I look around at all of the nations of the world, what is one thing that we all have in common? And what we all have in common are the sky creatures. We also have the stars as well, but I wasn't taking it in that direction. I didn't think of that fast enough. So we all have sky creatures, and we have the sky creature teachings, and so all of the sky creatures, they all have feathers. And so that makes a very good representation. So you can see what the Indigenous collection, when you come into my library, we put feather stickers. And these are feather stickers that I made. They're not available. There's a problem within the world of librarianship because, again, we are underrepresented. So I know that there are, for your Indigenous collection, there's a company out west that does the turtle inside of a medicine wheel, which is very problematic because those we don't have here in Six Nations. I was going to say Haudenosaunee land. We don't have medicine wheel teachings, so that doesn't apply to us. And then the turtle is really great, but also the turtle is one of our clans, and that would be really unfair to all of the other clans that they also want to be on the books. So it's very, very limiting. So those stickers are not advisable. If you want more information, my email is at the end, and I can help you. But at any rate, next is, this is so huge. Most people here don't know, but remember how I sit on all of these professional bodies, like local, provincial, national, and international? So this is how I know that I can tell you that the Six Nations Public Library is the oldest and largest First Nation public library in the world. So come on down and check us out. We are an open library, so you don't have to necessarily be, here we have interesting facts. You don't have to be a community member to get a library card with the Six Nations Public Library. You can also get your library card online. But you do need to come physically into the library to get your card. We won't mail. We are very, very underfunded, so we could not afford your stamps to send. Everybody in the world would want to have a library card to the Six Nations public. And on that note, I didn't include it anywhere here, but I will share with you that the Six Nations Public Library has reciprocal borrowing agreements. So if you have a card for us, you can get a card to Brantford Public Library, County of Brant Public Library System, Hamilton Public Library, Norfolk County Library System, and Haldimand County Library System. So all of the library systems that surround Six Nations of the Grand River, you are welcome to borrow and bring back. And there's a lot of cool things that those libraries have. Not as cool as our library, but they've got some cool stuff. So the Six Nations Public, it was opened, so it sits in an old house. It was originally a doctor's house. It was built in, I think, 1885 for the local doctor. It then was home to a series of doctors and then to nurses. It was taken, the library itself was established in 1966. That's important to note because it was only in 1966 that the Indian Act allowed for reserves to have libraries. Before that, they didn't want you to collectively read material. I mean, they're still trying to keep us down, but good luck. We also loaned our first book from the Six Nations Public Library in 1968. But the library itself, or the Six Nations Public Library as a concept, was thought up or dreamed about. It was a goal to be achieved and discussed by the Confederacy chiefs in 1906. And we have, there was an article that appeared in an archival book, like Archives of Ontario book, that where this information was collected. If you're interested, I can get you that resource. I can cite any of these things. They're all true. I'm just thinking I don't have a citation page or works consulted, but I can get them all. These are not, these are real authentic facts. Oh, the other thing that I guess mostly for Six Nations, most people think that the library is a department under Chief and Council, but we are not. The library is a public library and operates in accordance with the Public Libraries Act of Ontario. We are an arm's length away from Six Nations Chief and Council. They contribute financially to the library, and we are also housed in a building that is owned by council, but we are not a department. Did I call those fun facts? Here we've got some more cool things. We have an online presence. So the library has a website, snpl.ca, and I say that this is our virtual branch because if we are not open, there's tons of cool stuff that you can find on our website, like the e-resources. So we have our e-resources listed there now, but in 2025, those will change and there's more. I went with more cool sites. So we'll get to those. Oh God, did I go backwards? Sorry. We'll get to, I've listed out all of the e-resources further in my presentation here today. We have social media, so we have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, video, and Twitter or X. I don't know if anybody's ever really fully calls it X. I think we all just still call it Twitter. Put your hand up if you call it Twitter. But for when we have any announcements or things like that, it will come on to, we'll post most of the immediate announcements, like if we have to close due to weather or for various reasons, we'll put that on Facebook more than anything. So cool thing, we have the Mohawk Valley Kinship Project, which is super cool. It is precedent-setting work, and that's been done by Dakota Brandt. And we house that information. So what she has done is she has researched, and she currently, this is still active research, it will take her the rest of her life, but to look at each nation, and from each nation, each clan system, and tie us back matrilineally to the to the Mohawk Valley, hence Mohawk Valley Kinship Project. So it's not a genealogical research project, it is a kinship project because we are going back matrilineally, and it is not, which is a different concept than genealogy. So if you know who your family are, then this would be very, very interesting to you. Now the project, it is Six Nations, but you can't do research in Six Nations, especially in the Mohawk, without including Tyendinaga, or the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. So it has that information too. So if you're out that way, really, I think anybody, any community member should come in. We do not put this, we do not, and we will not put this information online, because if you want to find out who your family is, then you want to come to the place of your ancestors, and it's also to prevent cultural identity fraud, because we know that they're rampant. Moving on to Clippings Project. The Clippings Project is a partnership between the ROM and the Six Nations Public Library, and we just received funding for this project. So newspaper articles were clipped from a professional clipping service from 1964 to 1974, and we are going to be digitizing, so there's thousands and thousands of newspaper articles, and we're going to be digitizing them, we're going to be tagging them, and we will also be rematriating those Indigenous voices back to the reserves that they represent. In this clipping service, or in these newspapers, a lot of those newspapers are now defunct, not because of the internet, but maybe played a hand. But unless we were to digitize this information, it would be gone forever. We wouldn't have it. And in that 10-year period or that decade, a lot of things happened in Indian country that was represented in those articles. And I'm very excited. I think that it's a fascinating part of history. For those of you that were alive, it might be a really nice walk down memory lane. For some of us who are not alive, it will be just full of information, and so I'm excited about that. We also have the Mush Hole Records, or we don't have the Mush Hole Records, but we are working with Woodland, the Secretariat, and the Huron Archives. So the Huron Archives, it was discovered that they have a huge collection of records that belong to the Mush Hole. And so those are being digitized. And then the next cool thing are story walks. So the Six Nations Public Library works with social services of Six Nations And we're doing story walks at all of the numbered schools to remember the students that went there, honoring all of those students. So that's is a project in the works. But story walks, if you don't know what they are, these are raised platforms where you can read a story, and it's 1 page or 2 pages, and so it just, in these raised platforms, you read the story, and then you walk to the next one, and you read the story. The platforms are child height, because we're focusing, because these are schools, so we will be focusing on children reading the stories, and all of the stories that are contained in the story walks are representational of us as the Haudenosaunee. So that is another interesting project. Cool Things continues with the boardroom and archive. So the boardroom is available for booking, and then the archive is available for research purposes, but it's by appointment only. You can really come in. Well, you have to make an appointment, but if you even just wanted to take a look, in the library's archives, those are that collection of material. Some of them are the only known copy in the world, and that exists right here in, downtown Ohsweken. Come on down and take a look. We also do digitization. And some community members have already digitized their family records and their precious memories, but we will make a copy of, we'll digitize your records, whatever paper records you have. You might want to digitize them to preserve, to have a copy. You have pictures of your children and your grandchildren, and it would be nice so that maybe when your great-great-great-great-grandchildren come, then they can know who was in that photo, because you'll have it labeled. And it'll be digitized too. So we just need your flash drive and your docs, and it's a free service. Keep in mind that we have a very small staff, so sometimes if you need it in a hurry, you'd have to kind of make those arrangements. But if you're pretty leisurely and you just want it to be digitized, then we can make those arrangements too. The cool things keep on coming. In programming, so we have a programming calendar. It would be really cool if I had this and I could show it to you on the screen. I don't even know what you guys can see, but here's our programming calendar. This is November's. Our programming calendar is in Mohawk because I'm Mohawk. Oh, are you doing a close-up? Do you do that? Oh, okay. Is that a good one, or should I move it? Another? Right on. Okay. Yes, the programming calendar is in hard copy at the library. You can pick it up anytime. It's also on our website and all of our socials. And then every week, so this is the month at a glance, but we also advertise for what's going on for the week as well, just to sort of try to keep it really easy for everybody to know what we're up to. We also take suggestions of programs. If there's something cool that you'd like to learn or know about, we will try to make that happen. So the programs are offered both in-house and online. So some of the cool ones, they're all cool programs, but one of our longest running, and that a lot of people need to know about, is that we hold space for Haudenosaunee languages. So for the first 3 Tuesdays and the first 3 Thursdays of every month, we hold space virtually at 7 p.m. for language speakers to meet. So you can really increase your language speaking network. If you just write into the library, you do need to register so that we can then give you the code, the Zoom link to get in. Because we don't want bad people getting into those links, is why you kind of have to register. Otherwise, I try to not have things too much registering. But we also do a Haudenosaunee book club, and all of our books, that has been very successful. That's a virtual club. It's on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. And we read books written by Haudenosaunee voices. So far, the majority of the books have been written by people who come from Six Nations, and there's lots of books that There's lots of authors that come from Six Nations. Another cool program is Our Beating Hearts, and that's run out of the Dojo, and so that's a nice social opportunity. The second and fourth Monday, starting at 6 o'clock. And so you can go and bring your beading project. And if you are a new beater, then there is help there if you run into knots problems. And then we also have a film club, which is run by the library board chair, Don Lynch. And those are the best movies you've never heard of. We also have, on the topic of cool things, we also have we have our partnership with the Hamilton Public Library. And so the Hamilton Public Library Bookmobile comes to the library every other Friday from 10:30 till noon. So you can get a Hamilton Public Library card online, and once you have your library card, you can look at their collection, and then you can put books on hold under your account from Hamilton Public. If you have trouble, though, if you have trouble putting the book on hold, then you can always call that library or call my library. We all want you to have your books and your material. You can borrow anything. So we have books in collection at Six Nations. So we have Indigenous voices, and those are Haudenosaunee and Ongwayomwe voices, all our relations. We also have Native nonfiction. And then we have non-Native fiction and non-Native nonfiction. And I like to make these distinctions because it's always, here we have the WWE again, that when you think fiction, white Western Europeans, those are the ones that are writing those books, but they're not. They're not Native. So we like to point that out. You're not Native fiction writer. You're a non-Native nonfiction writer. We still honor your writing, but because we are the Six Nations Public Library, Six Nations of the Grand River, our population base is all Six Nations. So if you're not Six Nations, then that's a distinction that we're making. We also have graphic novels. We also have Indigenous graphic novels too. We have a Braille collection, and we are one of 7 public libraries in all of Canada to have a Braille collection. Remember that first committee that I told you about, Clark? That's why I sit on them. And Braille is really, well, it's a language, and it's really, really cool in and of itself to be able to read in Braille. We also have large print for people who have visual problems, or if you want to read a book really fast, read it in large print, and you'll feel like a real winner because it'll go fast. We have biographies, and we have reference, and those are all non-Native and Native. For our non-print collection, we have Dial a Story. So that's really cool. If there's any parents that are listening or grandparents, you can call 519-900-0908, and we will read you a story over the telephone. It's not like you're calling or picking up the phone and reading you the story. These are pre-recorded, but you can call in and listen to a story. We do our best to keep them all focused from our culture, but if you would like to come in and read a story or tell a story, like it doesn't even have to be a published story, you could just tell us a story. If you have, if you want to tell a legend or something, then you can, or if you want to own a channel, we have 99 channels. So if you want to be like channel 55 and you just are only reading on that channel, and you tell all of your friends and relatives that if you call in and dial 55, it'll be your voice. So maybe some of the grandparents who have grandchildren that are spread out far, you might want to come in and make those arrangements, and then your grandkids can listen to you all the time, every night. And your voice would get very tired if they were to call you all the time and every night, but they can hear your voice, which is nice. We also have a seed library. So we only also use local seeds and seeds that are appropriate for our area, and traditional growing techniques, traditional seeds, because we don't It becomes very dangerous changing the ecosystem like that. We also have board games, so now that the snowy weather and the cold seasons are coming, you can come into the library and borrow board games and play those with your friends and family, maybe your enemies too. I don't know what you like doing in your free time, but we also have chess sets, and then we also have a collection of DVDs and VHSs, and if you don't have a VHS, we have a VHS player, so if you wanted to watch some of these films, we have a VHS player in the boardroom, so you just have to book the boardroom. And I think if you're watching the VHS or the movies in the boardroom, then you wouldn't have to pay the fee. I think the fee is just if they're a money-making group, then we want a cut of that pie. I don't think that's wrong, because we're really underfunded. So we also offer free 24/7 Wi-Fi access from outside and inside the library. And we have provincial, I just wrote provincial passes, it's provincial park passes. So you can come and, I don't know, I know Sandbanks, which is out near Tynenaga, and then here is Long Point and Turkey Point. So you can make a booking, you can borrow one of our passes, and then you make a booking, and you can book every single weekend on your pass. We have a series of them, so you just come into the library, borrow a pass, and then you can book in advance. And it's really, you can go and use your status card, and you can get into the provincial parks for free. But you can only get into the provincial park for free with your status card if they have enough room. If the park is considered full, then you can't get in. So that's not as useful to you. But if you have a pass that you borrowed from the library, you can make your booking, you make your reservation, and then they have a spot for you. Either way, you're getting in for free, bottom line. So we have those passes to provincial parks. We also have passes for the Royal Botanical Gardens and the Brantford Conservation, and also Chiefswood. So a lot of cool things. Like, there's so much cool stuff going on at the library that people don't know about, so I'm really happy to be here to share. We have online resources, so our virtual branch. We have, a catalog is online, so if there's a book that you want to read, but you don't want to come in and get it off the shelf, then you can just put it on hold under your account, and we'll get it off of the shelf for you, and then it'll just be at the circulation desk. You just have to come in to get it. We have Ancestry, the library edition, and that's only accessible in-house. Ancestry doesn't want you doing your genealogical work at home. They want you to do that only at the library. But if you don't want to do that, then we have Heritage Quest Online, which is an e-resource that the library pays for. You can do that at home. There's also Libby, and so those are ebooks, e-audiobooks, e-video, and magazines. So I think, I don't know about you people, but I download the e-audiobooks for when I'm going on long drives. And it's really good, especially if you have children or young children. You can download an e-audiobook, and it keeps them really entertained because they're focused on the story. But also it's really good if you're driving late at night so you don't fall asleep because you, as the driver, are focused on the story. We have a digital archive, and it's hosted by Our Digital World. And right, remember I was telling you about the 2025 e-resources. So we have a lot of DIYs because we all know that we've got a lot of stuff to do around the home that we like doing, and sometimes we don't know how to do it. So the library has bought a subscription for Auto Repair Source, Hobbies and Crafts Source, Home Improvement Source, Small Business Source, and Small Engine Repair. Then we have our classic Chilton Auto Repair, and that's always really useful to see what your vehicle, if there's any recalls, or if you're selling or buying, or if you're doing some repairs yourself. It has all of that information and schematics. The World Cinema Collection, more cool movies, novel list, so that's cool too, because that's for Reader's Advisory. So that might be an excellent resource for our community teachers to use. Then there's Gale, and these are all more for school students. Academic One File, and general one file with one file collections, Gale and Context Elementary, Gale Literature Resource Center. Those are more for students, and with that collection you'll have access to full text and peer-reviewed journal articles. And if you need some help in researching or using those, come to the library and we will help you use that resource to its max, because there's a lot of information, good information out there. Canadian Periodical Index. We have World Book Activity Corner, and that's good for the little children or up through elementary school. And then Career Cruising. That's a really cool resource for, especially for late year high school students, if they want to know, if they have a career that they want to go after, then they want to know what schools offer it, what courses they need to take. They also have little videos of what a day in the life of is like. So I think I watched one for a mechanic, and it was what does he or she wear, and what time do they start work, what time do they end, what does a typical day look like. So that's a really neat resource for that. And that is cool things at the Six Nations Public Library, and there is our name and address, phone number for the info. If you need to print anything, you can send it to info@smpl.ca. We do color and black and white printouts. So that's a really, that's a resource that's used by the community quite a bit. And then there's my name and there's my email. I don't do the printing. I make sure that there's paper that we can print on and that there's a printer that will print. But I'm very happy. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. If you have any questions, I worked as a reference librarian for over a decade, and I am very curious about what you want to know. So thank you very, very much for having me. And that's perfect, 2:59.